Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Thank you for joining the Spiritist Talk series promoted by the United States Spiritist Federation every Saturday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. I am very happy to host this talk today by Alves, who will be leading our live with the theme Trials and Consolations. Let's all give Alex a very warm welcome, but please allow me to introduce him before he starts his presentation. Alex is a worker and member of the Permanent Deliberative Council of the Plenitude Spiritist Society in Kissimmee, Florida. Alex has served as a board member of the Spiritist Federation of Florida and has been actively contributing to the American Spiritist movement for the past 20 years. Please take this opportunity to send your questions during the presentation using the chat window. Alex has reserved time to address your comments and questions once he concludes his presentation. And now, let's hear from Alex Alves.
Good morning, Bradley. Good morning, everyone. Thank you so very much for this opportunity. I am the one who is very happy and humbled to have this opportunity to be with all of you guys on this very beautiful Saturday morning. We were just touching bases before our talk over here, and this title, Trials and Consolation, it looks like kind of a weird on a first glance and everything. Every time that we talk about the trials, we first think on trials and expiations. This time, we are going to also talk about the consolations, as our Heavenly Father doesn't want us to just to go on trials and sufferings, but He also offers us the tools that we may need to overcome our sufferings and challenges. So today, as for now, we're going to leave the expiations out of our conversation today, so we can talk more about the consolations. Because as we're living on a planet of trials and atonements, suffering and pain and challenges, they are part of our daily lives. We all go through challenges and pains that we have to suffer, or that regarding our choices that we've been made. But what is very important, God, it's a loving Father. God wants us to overcome our challenges, growth spiritually, so we can get closer to Him. So it doesn't make sense just to be focused on the trials if He wouldn't be giving us the consolations as well, or at least the ways that we should be facing our challenges in a way that we can take the best out of it. Well, make no mistake about it. There is no such a thing, especially on earth during these days, as a perfect life. We always keep imagining what would be the perfect life if I win the lotto, if I had this, if I had that, if I would be working on that place, if I'd be living on that country and everything. But even if we can reach and get all of these desires that we have for ourselves as a way to have a perfect life, we live on an imperfect world surrounded by imperfect people. So we would never be able to have a perfect life because we have other imbalances as well. So without further ado, let's just move on and try to talk about the trials and the consolations and how we can overcome our challenges on a more easier way from that we have been doing so far. So in order to be talking about all of this, let's try first to define what would be trials. How can we define trials? On the Spirit's book, on the question 115, Kardec asks us for the enlightened spirits. Are some spirits create good and others bad? And the answers that we got from the Spiritists is God created all the spirits simple and unaware, with no knowledge of whatsoever. God has given them each a particular mission to enlighten them and help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth and rise closer to Him. Spirits acquire knowledge by experiences, the trials inflicted by God. So In other words, we can define, or under the Spiritist view, we can define trials as our challenging situations, not punishments, just the challenging situations that we need to acquire the knowledge that we need to be closer to God. So trials are these challenging situations given by God or chosen by us before our incarnation, with the purpose of promoting our spiritual development and improving our virtues as a step towards evolution. Trials are instruments of learning and spiritual growth, not punishments. We got to have this very clear. Trials are not punishments. And these trials, they'll help us to overcome our difficulties, improve virtues, and learn important lessons. Expiations are a kind of punishment due to our faults from the past. But we won't touch this subject today, as I mentioned before, as we're focused on where to find consolations and how to use those consolations in our daily lives. So these are the trials that we have. So what kind of examples, what we can consider a trial in our lives? Well, trials can manifest themselves in various forms and various ways, such as, for example, financial difficulties and problems, health problems, complicated relationships, and others, which serve to test faith and the ability to overcome. One of the trials that we run basically on a daily basis is the trial or the test of the patience, for example. So God does not give us patience, because patience is not something that we can just be given to, or a pill that we buy at the Walgreens or CVS that we can take it 3 times a day after lunch or with the food or something like that, and we're going to be acquiring patience. Patience is acquired going through situations which requires patience, that we can develop this patience. So, for example, just like taking care of a husband with flu. Asking for all the wives out there, there is no such a thing that requires more patience than treating a man with the flu. Man, I know, because I had a flu about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and I can't recognize myself. I was very, very hard to be dealing with, because we became so sensitive, and everything hurts, and we do not accept a lot of things. So our wives have to have a lot of patience with us. So, but this is one of the trials, examples that we can bring on, where we live through situations which is going to be teaching us how to acquire the patience or acquire the virtues that we need to develop. And just to illustrate as well, there are other types of trials, very common among us as well. For example, the trials of wealth and poverty. On the question 815 from the Spirit's book, again, Kardec asks for the enlightened spirits, what trials should the human beings dread the most, wealth or poverty? And the answer is, they are equally dangerous. Poverty inspires complaints against providence, while wealth stimulates all kinds of access. So when we're living one of the other experiences, what we should learn from this one? What we should learn from poverty, for example? The test of poverty trains, or brings us humility, resignation, hope, resilience, faith, and trust in God. So most of the time, what happens to us? Instead of acquiring all of these virtues, humility, resignation, hope, and resilience, we are developing complaints against the providence, because God forget about me, because nothing that I do, it works, everything that I do goes wrong, and we start to put complaints against providence, which should be the opposite. We should be developing those virtues: patience, resilience, and hope, trust in God. So that's one of the trials, that's one of the reasons, or these should be the outcome that we will be getting out of the poverty trial. And the same thing about the wealth. What we should be learning with the proof of the trial of the wealth. On the test of wealth, we should be developing charity, solidarity, foresight, and detachment. And what happens when most of us, we got stimulated for all kind of access and pleasures. We spend money on a lot of things that is not going to bring us any of the things that we should be learning, especially detachment and charity and being able to develop again. Another example or another lesson that we can take out of the wealth trial is how to do not store up for ourselves treasures on earth and try to put up together treasures on heavens for us through charity, through benevolence, through detachments, and this kind of things. So this is just a few examples of how the trials can be in our presence and in our daily lives, and what we should be learning out of that. But I want to go back to the previous slide because I left something out of there on purpose. On the previous slide, we have the explanations about the trials and everything, but I want to go back to these bold phrase that I put over here in the underlined one. Unlike them and help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth. What is truth? I am the way, the truth, and the life, Jesus taught us. What is the greatest law that God and Christ taught us? That was the law of love. What is charity if not love in motion? And how can we define charity as Jesus understood it? Question 882 on the Spirit's book. Benevolence, indulgence, forgiveness of offenses. What does Kardec says? Kardec says, without charity, there is no salvation. So this is the truth that we needed to understand, to know, and to develop. The law of love. How to deal with these trials using these characteristics, the charity, the benevolence, the indulgence, the forgiveness of the offenses, and believing that every time that we do that toward other people, we're going to be learning this truth, which is the law of love. Because if God is love, what he wants from us? He wants us to learn how to love. How can we develop love on the stage, the evolutionary stage that we are nowadays on our spiritual progress? Through charity, which is benevolence, indulgence, and forgiveness. If we use those three virtues towards everything that happens to us, we'll be developing love, the true love, the love that God expects from us, the love that Jesus taught us. Another phrase which is very important that I would like to bring on this topic is Spiritists love one another. That's the first precept. Educate yourselves is the second. Within Christianity, inside Christianity, you will find all the truth. So what was primitive Christianity, the origin of everything based on? The love of Christ. So going back, if we reach and we can practice charity and love, which is defined by Christ as indulgence, benevolence, and forgiveness, we would be attending his commandment and his demands. Love one another in the way that I loved you. So that's the main truth that we should be learning, how to live this love in our daily lives. But we know the reasons, we know what we have to do. But why do we often fail our trials? Because of this great problem that we have in our lives. What is the greatest obstacle to progress? Pride and selfishness. This is in terms of moral progress, as the intellectual progress is constant. So why we're not evolving morally as fast as we should or as fast as we could, on another note, as fast as we could, because of pride and selfishness. And when we go to the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 15, item 3, all of Jesus' morality is summed up in charity and humility. What is? In these two virtues that are contrary to selfishness and pride. In all of his teachings, in all of his examples, he points to those two virtues as being those that lead us to eternal happiness. And most of the time, we are forgetting about that. We are letting the pride and the selfishness command our choices, our words, and our actions, where it should be the opposite, as we saw in the previous slide. We should be developing the love inside of us. In light of this teaching that Jesus brought to us, we understand that improving the virtues that are contrary to pride and selfishness, on the other words, improving and developing charity and humility, these are the tools and the levers that we can use to direct us towards the path of progress. Practicing good through charity and humility are antidotes and remedies to heal the pains and wounds that we cause to ourselves with our wrong choices. So now we already can see some of the consolations, because I'm sure that happened to all of you guys before. Every time that we do good to someone, to something, we feel good about it. We feel energized. We feel stimulated. We feel that we should be doing this more. Well, this brings me happiness. Oh, I was really happy that I was able to help someone or do that towards someone and everything. And once we start to practice that, we got to kind of use it to this feeling. Now, it requires more. It requires more charity, more good deeds toward the others, because the feeling that we start to feel, it's really good, and we look for that. So once you start to do these charities, the wounds, the pains that we have inside of us, they start to fade away, because they are being replaced by the happiness that we feel when we are doing good things towards the others. So this is the exercises that we should be doing. One of the consolations that we have is the attitude, the action of doing good towards the others as well, or charity and humility. That's, if we go and we use those two virtues, we're going to be combating, and we're going to be fighting against the proud and selfishness, which are two of our worst vicious that we have on our moral life. Well, we will start talking about some of the consolations that we can find. Let's go a little bit more deeper on this topic and subject, and see how we can find other consolations. Under this perspective that we're bringing for today's talk, I see two main sources of consolations. One, of course, Jesus as the sent by God, as his son that came to bring us the teachings and the lessons that we all needed in our lives in order to progress and to evolve morally and spiritually. So when we go to the Sermon of the Mount, for example, we can find over there the teachings, just like the blessed are the afflicted, and blessed are those who mourn, blessed are the meek and the peaceful, blessed are the merciful. So we already have Jesus' teachings that came to us as a way to console ourselves. The second source of a consolation that we can see as the Spiritism as the promised consoler, as we can find on the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 6, 8 and 5. On this passage, actually, yes, in this passage, it says, on this passage, he says that he's bringing the aspects of the consolation, that Spiritism is the promised consoler, as he had thought about before the Last Supper. We all remember before the Last Supper when he reunited all the disciples, and he has said, I'm going to be sending you another consoler, which is going to explain and reminds you of a lot of the teachings that I've been talking to you right now, and we will explain a lot more. So Spiritism, as of today, we can see it as a promised consoler, as promised by Jesus. Why is that? Because Spiritism explains the evolutionary process that we go through. Reincarnation, multiplicity of inhabited worlds and everything. Explains the purpose of a reincarnation. Explains the divine wisdom and the tests it offers to us on the trials that we go through. So when we bring Spiritism into this consolation thing, we are going to be understanding a lot more what happens to us, and most importantly, why it's happening to us. Why we consider the Spiritism as a huge consolation. Because once we understand why we are doing things or why we are going through situations, we can absorb them a lot better and a lot easier. So a mom, for example, a mother, tomorrow is Mother's Day, a mother, for example, when she understands why she's going through all the pain during labor, because she's going to give in birth, because she's going to have her child close to her and everything, she overcomes that pain a lot easier because she understands the reason and the prize and the premium which will come after that, which is going to be his son or her daughter. So there is a meaning for that suffering. She understands what's going on. Once we understand that the trials and atonements that we suffer or the challenges that we face in our daily lives are the lessons that we need to get closer to God, we'll be able to overcome that. If you think that we just have one life, one incarnation, why in the hell I should be going all of this suffering? Why in the hell I should be doing all of these good things and good deeds towards the others if I just live this life? What am I going to be collecting after that? And everybody that have doing something wrong against myself, where are the law of justice on this? If you rethink it just in one life, in one incarnation, it gets a lot harder to understand and practice the teachings. When we put in the pictures the immortality of the soul, the multiple existences, the concepts of the reincarnation, and we understand our life as a true immortal life towards perfection, we understand why we should be doing and practicing the law of love as Christ taught us. Because the reward after that would be the evolvement, the growth, the spiritual enlightenment, and being closer to God. So that's why Spiritism is also a huge consoler on these situations that we have. Besides these two, I would say, philosophical aspects, I would like to bring also what I call the sublime consolations, which are teachings from God, from Jesus, and that can help us on a sublime way to understand even better what goes with us. So one of these consolations is this phrase that we can find in the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 5, 18, that was a message from Lacordaire and instructions of the spirits in one of the passages. It says, you have heard it said many times that he does not put a heavy burden on weak shoulders. He understands God. Said many times that God does not put a heavy burden on weak shoulders. The burden is always in proportion to the strength, just as the recompense depends on the degree of resignation and courage. Just in the school, on our educational system and educational process, the subjects that we face, the tests that we face, the quizzes that we go over are proportional to the knowledge that we have. The more we know, the more challenging the problems, the quizzes, and the tests become. It's the same way in our lives. The stronger we are, the more prepared we are, the greater the challenges will be. Because that's how we learn. There's no magical over here. So we started small, we start ignorance as we are created by God, as I was saying on the first slide and second slide. We are all created with no knowledge, as we are evolving and acquiring knowledge and getting stronger and get more information, we'll be able to face new challenges or more complicated challenges in order to acquire more knowledge and move on. It's the same thing with our life, our school system. The more we know, the harder the tests and the quizzes will become. There is no secret over here. But this message says God does not put on our shoulders a burden and a weight heavier than we can carry. It's very true. If you were facing today a very challenging situation, we should be happy, because that means that we are strong enough to face that situation. If we weren't, we wouldn't be facing it, because God wouldn't put in our shoulders something that we cannot carry. That's one thing, but I think it's very sublime when we look into that. The other is God is sovereignly just and good. So everything that happens to us must be sovereignly just and good. There's no mistakes on God's plans. There's no errors. There's no, the Wi-Fi was kind of miscalibrated. I was put in the wrong house and something like that. No. There's no mistakes on God's plans. Everything that happens to us has a purpose, has a reason, and it's perfectly just. We may not understand. I'll give you that. We may not realize immediately why, who, where did it come from, what's the lesson that I need to learn out of that, but it's just, and it's good for us. If you are facing something on that moment, that is absolutely just and good for us. It's our responsibility as we evolve, as we study more and more to understand the lesson, take the lesson out of that situation, improve ourselves, improve our virtues, and move on. And once we do that, we'll have this sublime consolation as well. Finally, on this note, on this topic, the Gospel according to Spiritism, the chapter 6, which is called Christ the Consoler. This entire chapter, which is the smallest one in the Gospel according to Spiritism, is just about 3 or 4 pages. Not very good, not very big. But the profoundness of the messages, the console, the words that we get out of this chapter are the most amazing things that we can even find inside of the gospel. Because all of these messages and all the instructions that we have over here are from the Spirit of Truth, which was Jesus himself. So he basically wrote this entire chapter. That's why it's called also Christ the Consoler, because it was given all the messages by the Spirit of Truth. So I'm not going to go over all the phrases and all the messages over here, but there are just quite a few that I would like to change to share with all of us today, just in order to get a glimpse in how consoling those phrases, those messages are. So it's one of the passages starts like this: I have to come to tell them to raise up their resignation to the level of their trials and to weep, but await with patience, for the consoling angels will come to them and dry their tears. That's a message from the Spirit of Truth. Workers, plan your path. Recommence the following day the wearisome labor of the previous day. When the time comes for repose, we will feel the surging within and the germination of my precious seeds. Nothing is lost in the kingdom of heaven. Nothing is lost in the kingdom of God. Your sweat and miseries form the treasure that will make you rich in the superior spheres. So if you face our challenges in a nice way and with a purpose, that is how we're going to be accumulating treasures in heaven. In truth, I say unto you that those who bear their burdens and help their brothers and sisters are beloved by me. Instruct yourselves in the precious doctrine which dissipates the error of revolts and shows the sublime object of a human trials. Again, words of the Spirit of Truth. And go on for another 2 or 3 passages over here. But again, I'm not going to be reading all of this. I'll invite all of you guys to go back home and take a look on the Gospel according to Spiritism, chapter 6, and read it with patience, with no interruptions, so we can extract how consoling this chapter is. That we are not alone, that we are not thrown away on the lion's den just to face our challenges. God has taught us. Jesus has been here teaching us. And these consolations will face it, and we will extract the knowledge and the growth on virtues that we need to face whatever is towards to come to us in the futures. Also, as a sublime consolation, know the truth, and the truth will set you free. What truth? Which truth are we talking about? We already mentioned this before on a few slides back. It's the love. Know love, and love will set you free. That's what God is expecting to us. You know what is this loving behavior? It's this loving behavior that I would like to leave as a final message for us. What should we be doing? How should I be treating other people? How I should be reaction to the situations that I face on my daily lives? This is the new attitude that I would like to invite everyone to incorporate on our lives, on our learning experiences and everything, in order to overcome our own difficulties, in order to improve ourselves and collect and live in this life better than when we got over here. That's the main purpose of why we're here, to leave Earth better than when we came. And if we learn this truth, the law of love, and put in practice towards us and towards the others around us, we'll be leaving this earth much better than when we come. This truth, the truth of love that liberates, that heals, that makes us grow. And to this end, I just would like to leave over here, just as a reflection, just something that we can take back home with all of us, what I call the love formula. Love, it's the sum of all of these virtues multiplied by how many times we needed to practice them, and that we can practice them. So the love formula, the formula of love, it's the sum of all of these virtues multiplied by how many times we have the opportunity to apply them. And once we apply this law of love towards our lives, we'll be able to reach the knowledge that God is expecting to us. We'll face the challenges that we have to face because this is how we're going to be learning. But most importantly, we'll have the consolations and the guarantee that once we overcome all of these challenges, God will be waiting for us with his open arms in order to be able to regain our pathway to perfection. So that's what I would like to leave you guys today with, these messages and these reflections in order to be able to preach what we all been trying to do over here. Leave this earth much better than when we came. Thank you so very much.
Thank you very, very much, Alex, for the wonderful insights and reflections you provided us today. Everyone, please stay with us for the QA session, which will start shortly after these few important announcements. The 18th Spiritist Congress of Georgia, coming May 17th and May 18th in Middleton, Georgia. The conference, entitled Divine Justice, will be celebrating 160 years of the book Heaven and Hell by Allan Kardec. There's also the 19th U.S. Spiritist Symposium. The annual event will happen on September 20th, 2025 in Ann Arbor, Michigan. Save the date and join us to reflect on the evolution of consciousness, a path towards enlightenment. There will be activities for kids and teens all day. Registration opens soon. And be certain to check out the continuing podcast like series, Psychology and Spirituality, A Bridge to a Better Life, based on the works by Joanna Giangelis. A new episode appears every Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. It is available on YouTube and Spotify. There is a new book, The Spiritist Review, 1865 by Allan Kardec. It is available at the spiritistbooks.us store. Also, please check out the wonderful Spiritist app, Be My Hope, which is available from the App Store and Google Play. This app offers uplifting content, a collection of videos, daily messages, and audio materials. Download it today. And there's also available 7 free professionally recorded Spiritist audiobooks, sponsored and produced by the Spiritist Society of the Carolinas. At your own pace, you can listen to Allan Kardec's foundational works on YouTube at the Spiritist Society Carolinas. And finally, on the screen, you will note there is a QR code. If you want to help the USSF produce more publications and promote Spiritism to everyone, scan the QR code online for your donation. Now, let's turn our attention to your comments and questions. There's still time to send in yours, so please feel free to share your thoughts. From the United States Spiritist Federation, when we incarnate, how will we remember what our mission is?
Well, in our conscience, all of the God's laws are in our conscience, but we don't have to remember our mission, special mission, because we're going to be guided through our lives towards the pathway that we should be following. But one of the things that we cannot always forget, and that's easier to remember, it's that we are on this life to get better and to evolve. So our main mission is to get better. Oh no, I got a mission to be the Pope. I got a mission to be the president. I got the mission to be doing this or doing that or developing this charity and everything. Whatever we have an agreement with God and the enlightened spirits to be doing on this life, we will be guided through that. And if we keep ourselves connected with the enlightened spirits through prayer and through good actions, we'll be inspired to do that. Because one of the characteristics of the reincarnation, we do not remember what we have done, what we were in the previous life, and what we had put in agreement to ourselves, because we have our free will to be developing on this life as well. But we can always make sure that we are on this life, and this is our main mission, to get better and to improve ourselves compared to our previous lives. We cannot always forget that today, we are the best versions of ourselves. Our mission is, at the end of our life, get even better than I am today.
Very helpful. Thank you, Alex. And from Daniel Santos, how can the practice of finding small moments of consolation during difficult trials contribute to overall well-being?
Well, Daniel, very good question. But once you find these small moments of consolation, just the tranquility and the serenity that we can find in ourselves will help our overall feeling and overall well-being. Because once we understand that the trials that we are going through, the challenges that we are going through, are just lessons that we need to learn, and not something that someone is doing towards us because they want us to harm ourselves or something. We understand that these are God's opportunities in order to evolve ourselves. Well, if God is bringing me this, that means that I'm able to overcome. If God is asking me to face this situation, that's because there is a solution, there's a way to do it, and I'm strong enough to do it. Once we put ourselves in God's hands, as we already heard this from Francis of Assisi, there is no better place to be than in God's hands. So that will bring us a lot of tranquility, calm, and the certainty that we will be able to overcome. And this contributes a lot for our overall well-being.
Good thoughts. And from the U.S. Spiritist Federation, are trials predestined or do they come naturally from our daily living?
Very good question. Some of the trials, yes, they are predetermined because we committed ourselves to be facing that. For example, I put myself in accordance with my mentors. On this life, they're going to be facing financial challenges. I'm going to have a very harsh financial life and material life in order to be developing humility or detachment or resilience or resignation or something like that. So some of the challenges, some of the trials, yes, we made an agreement before we incarnate. Some of them will come in a natural way. For example, the patients taking care of a husband with the flu, for example. We don't ask for that when we reincarnate, or at least the wives should not be asking for this when we incarnate. But this is another opportunity that will happen normally in our daily lives, in occurrence on our daily living.
Very good. And from TVCEI, International Spiritist Council, are there collective trials? And if so, how does it work?
Oh, yes. There's a lot of collective trials. But even during the collective trials, the individuals are suffering and going through that. So, for example, let's suppose this one of the things that shocks us the most, these airplanes accidents, or when an airplane goes down and everything. 60 persons died, 100 something people died, 200 people died and everything. They are all going through what we call a collective trial because they were all related somehow to an event which previously determined them to be going through that situation on the now. But each one of the individuals will react or overcome that experience based on their own knowledge and spiritual growth. So you might have on an airplane accident, for example, spiritists which are well evolved, as was Chico Xavier and myself. Chico, for example, would be expecting the passage or the death in a very tranquil way. And myself, I would be freaking out. I would be facing hell and I wouldn't be accepting that situation. So each one will overcome the experiences based on their knowledge and their spiritual growth. But the collective trials will be affecting everyone. How we reacted to that, it's up to each one of us.
Good guidance. Thank you. From the Spiritist Network, in what ways can unexpected trials ultimately lead to deeper personal growth and resilience?
In all of the experiences, all of the unexpected, depending on how hard they reach us or how hard they affect us, they will guide us for a deeper or a more shallow personal growth and resilience. For example, a car accident, which is unexpected. If it's a mild car accident, it might not even affect me. I'm going to be driving the same way that I drive, fast, careless, not paying attention to the traffic signs, not stopping at the stop sign, and these kind of things. A near-death experience can transform my life, which is totally unexpected. You were not expected to have an accident or have a problem during a surgery, and you go through a near-death experience. That will affect us in a way that we may not even being able to describe. So it all depends how much that experience, that unexpected trial affects us, how mild or how deep that is. And again, it can be it can be on a personal basis. By the way, see how things are. Um, a friend of mine, actually, this week on Thursday, I was having lunch with my boss, and he mentioned to me that he was involved in a car accident, which is I didn't know, I wasn't aware. He said, "Oh, everything was fine, everything was okay. The car was totaled." But he said that made me rethink the way that I drive, because he used to drive a lot faster. He was a very reckless driver, to put it this way. But that affected, it was a mild accident. But because he had his wife with him, that made a profound impact. The thing was very simple, but it made a profound impact on him. If it were some other person, it might not be affecting at all. No, it was nothing. The car was total. The insurance will pay. I will keep doing the same things that I was doing. For him, it caused an impact, very deep. And he's already provoking a new situation and a new behavior from him. Again, it all depends and how we will affect each one personally.
Good points. Very good points. And from the United States Spiritist Federation, can we truly measure our moral progress?
Are we interested in that? What is the benefit to measure our moral progress while we are on our way? Because that can put a lot of a burden on ourselves. Oh, I'm not changing. I'm not moving. I am not being able to reach a very deep moral transformation and everything. But I'm putting a lot of efforts. Um, there isn't a way that we can measure our moral progress. How much more problems are we facing, or how many times are we facing the same problems? Because if we are facing the same problems many, many times, that means that we are not evolving at all, because that lesson keeps coming to us. If we have new lessons and new challenges, that means that we are somehow evolving, because that lesson has been learned. I change behavior, I change the way that I face that situation. I'm ready for something else. But am I interested on this? We are immortal spirits. That means that I shouldn't be concerned about my involvement? No, that means that we have the eternity ahead of us to be evolving. We don't have to be concerned and rushing in order to acquire the moral progress. Because the moral progress is not something that we can just read the lesson today and move on. We have to live the lesson. We have to learn the lesson. We have to incorporate the lesson. We have to incorporate this new behavior. It takes time. But is that a way that I can measure? Yes. If the same lesson is coming, or the same challenges keep coming back towards us, that means that I haven't learned the lesson. If I'm facing new challenges, well, it means that I'm evolving, because I'm facing new situations.
Very helpful. Thank you very, very much, Alex, for being with us today. And many thanks to everyone who watched today's talk live, and those who have been following our weekly Spiritist Talk series. Next Saturday, May 17th, we will have Gustavo Roca speaking about turning water into wine. Before we close the live today, Alex, would you please offer a prayer?
Oh, that would be my pleasure. Thank you so very much for the invitation and the opportunity, Bradley. So let's close our eyes and raise our thoughts to the heavens to say, Dear Lord, our Heavenly Father, we are very thankful for the opportunity in being together today, for the messages and the teachings that we just received. Please give us the strength that we needed to fight against our own imperfections, so we can be tomorrow a much better person than we were yesterday. Give us the light, the knowledge, the strength to keep our decision in moving forward standing, so we can make on this life really worthy, and we can live this life much better than when we came. We also ask and we thank you to enlightened spirits, our guardian angels, which are with us all the time, bringing us the ideas, the inspirations that we need to keep moving forward towards progress, evolvement, and growth. And your love, Christ, and your example may always be our guide in how to behave and how to do things on our daily lives. And so be it.